What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today is September 29th of 2021. Today's another edition of the Wednesday Super Stream, in which we're going to take a look at a number of news and sports stories from the past week and examine the numerology around these stories, particularly through the code of Gematria, which is the ancient practice and observation of the letters, the numbers that sit behind the letters, I should say. And these ciphers are very simple. The ordinal method simply uses the alphabetic order 1 through 26, assigning a number to each letter relative to its position in the alphabet. The reduction methods use the rules of numerology to reduce every double-digit number to a single digit. Of course, we have the reverse alphabetic order, where the alphabet's simply flipped around. And then we'll also glance at the two primary large number ciphers I teach, which more closely mirror the ancient Hebrew, Gematria, and Greek isopsephy charts. So today we're going to start out with a decode of a big NFL record that occurred this past Sunday when Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker made a 66-yard field goal as time expired to defeat the Detroit Lions. This occurred the same day that previous record holder Matt Prater attempted to break his own record, only to see the kick returned by the Jaguars for a touchdown. So we'll talk about this, and also how it relates to kicker Tom Dempsey, who held this record for nearly 4 decades, and recently passed away last April due to what were said is COVID-19. There's a number of other stories we'll look at throughout this video. We had another grocery store shooting, this time in Tennessee, and it was another Kroger grocery store, just like the King Soopers shooting from earlier this year. So we'll take a look at how the Kroger company and their numerology is connected. A little fun decode we'll do at some point today as well. I was scanning through a journal of mine from when I was 13 and found what I believe is my first ever decode related to Mark McGwire's home run chase back in 1998 and hitting 61 home runs. So now that I know Gematria, I was able to expand on this, and we'll take a look at Mark McGwire, Roger Maris later on. Another big news story I want to follow up on is this whole thing with Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. Now, in my video last week, I theorized a little bit about what's really going on and how much of this was organic. In reviewing this story more after that video, there's definitely something going on with this story. And now, television star Dog the Bounty Hunter has joined the hunt for Brian Laundrie. And we'll talk about how his numerology connects to this story, but also how this riddle is connected to the death of bounty hunter Boba Fett, the actor who played him, who died at age 75 last year. And 75 just happens to be the number that we see in the headline connected to Dog the Bounty Hunter. As mentioned last week, the Gabby Petito story, I believe, is a numeric tribute to the death of Norm Macdonald. And this entrance of Dog the Bounty Hunter into this story seems to confirm that, so we'll dive in. There's also a few stories regarding CV19 that we're going to look at. Bob Uecker Day in Wisconsin by the numbers. And also an interesting story regarding Ronda Rousey and her first child, born on the 27th, connected to, of course, her numerology as well as Travis Browne, her husband. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, again, last week I also said that I was going to try to split the video up into chapters. Well, because my channel has been deemed by YouTube to be teaching sensitive content, because, you know, what kind of degenerate adds numbers and looks at the sky like I do, right? But nonetheless, I'm not allowed to have chapters on this, so if you want to check the description or the top comment, if you're watching this video archived, I'll have it all split up into separate chapters for you, and you can jump right to the story you want to see. All right, so let's get into this. Now, Justin Tucker's NFL record 66-yard field goal. This was a pretty big deal, and it occurred on the date September 26th. Now, September 26th is a very unique date on the calendar. The date can be written 26/9, as it is internationally, like the number 269. And September 26th is also the 269th day of the year. And there's really no other date like this. So this is a very special day. In the reverse alphabetic order, the phrase longest field goal has a value of 269. So on the 269th day of the year, we got a nice little riddle for the longest field goal. You'll notice the reduction value of 73 for longest field goal. Last year, Tom Dempsey, who held the record for longest field goal for nearly 4 decades, died at the age of 73. So prior to lining up and kicking this game-winning field goal, Matt Prater, who previously held the record with a 64-yard field goal, tried to extend his own record earlier that day. So right now he plays for Arizona, and the Cardinals lined up for a 68-yarder right before halftime, trying to break his own record. Now instead, that kick fell short and was returned for a touchdown. And then later that day, the same record he tried to extend winds up getting broken by Justin Tucker. So certainly the Ravens with the last laugh on this date. Cardinals did win the game, though. So definitely this kick is connected to Matt Prater. But what's so crazy about Justin Tucker's field goal is that it came against the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions are the team that Matt Prater first signed with back in 2006. He also played for the Detroit Lions for 7 seasons, up until last year. In 1970, when Tom Dempsey kicked a 63-yard field goal to break the NFL record, his kick was a last-second field goal to defeat the Detroit Lions by a score of 19-17. And then Justin Tucker's kick, also against the Detroit Lions, also as time expires to give them a 19-17 win. And that's pretty wild, right? A couple of 19-17 wins. Now, in English Gematria, longest field goal in NFL history equals, well, unfortunately, it's 19-16. I was really hoping for a 19-17 there, but close enough, I suppose. Anyway, what I want to point out is that Justin Tucker, his first season was 2012 with the Baltimore Ravens, and that year, the Ravens won Super Bowl 47. Matt Prater yesterday was 47 days after his birthday and saw his record get broken exactly 407 weeks after it was set. Super Bowl 47, won by Justin Tucker, was played in New Orleans, Louisiana. And New Orleans is the team that Tom Dempsey played for when he set the NFL record in 1970. You'll notice Justin Tucker's full name sums to 211, which is the 47th prime number. And this is very similar to his birthday of 2111, November 21st. Meanwhile, Matt Prater, his birthday falls 211 days after Tom Dempsey's. So the number 47 connecting all of these kickers. Tucker's new NFL record is 66 yards. And 66 is a pretty significant number to the NFL. NFL equals 66. The first Super Bowl completed the 1966 season. The record was originally held by Matt Prater, and check out how his name equals 66. Prater set the record in the city of Denver, Colorado, which equals 66 in Jewish reduction. Both Denver and Colorado 33 in that cipher. And remember, Denver, Colorado is home to the 303 area code. Don't forget 33 sums to 66 as well. Now, Matt Prater tried to break his record earlier in the day against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And check out how Jacksonville Jaguars equals 66. Meanwhile, Justin Tucker plays for the Baltimore Ravens, which sums to 66 in that same reduction method. His 66-yarder was kicked against the Lions, which equals 66. And in Gematria, Ravens-Lions has the same values as 66. But next we need to see how this connects to Tom Dempsey. Before I do, I want to mention that Matt Prater was born on August 10th. And again, this man signed with the Lions originally, played for the Lions for 7 years. August 10th is World Lion Day. And isn't it funny that World Lion Day was established by Big Cat Rescue? Well, Big Cat Rescue is a big focus of the television series The Tiger King. And think about, tigers, lions. Detroit is home to both Major League Baseball's Tigers and the NFL's Lions. So Big Cat Rescue, this is featured in The Tiger King, and it just so happens that the second season of The Tiger King was just announced. Look at this. 1 day ago, 3 days ago, just this past week, Tiger King 2 recently announced. So there's definitely a strong connection to this. Wanted to point that out. But looking back at the death of Tom Dempsey, if you search my YouTube channel, you'll find a video on the numerology of Tom Dempsey's death. And what I forgot to mention is that he was born in the year 47, which connects him to Justin Tucker and Matt Prater even further. Now, using the S exception in a cipher that's called single reduction, which I do consider a major cipher, the name Tom Dempsey equals 54. His record field goal was kicked for New Orleans, which equals 54. And now we have a record set by Justin Tucker, which sums to 54. And if you measure from the death of Tom Dempsey to Justin Tucker's record, it was exactly 540 days. And remember, Tom Dempsey's death made the news on the date written 5/4, the 5th of April. That date is also written 4/5. COVID-19 equals 45. That's the disease that is said to have killed him. Justin Tucker, New Orleans, all 45 in Gematria. Tucker's record also occurred 174 days after the anniversary of Tom Dempsey's death. And 174 is the ordinal value of the team he plays for, Baltimore Ravens. Now, I failed to make this connection back in February, but it turns out that Tom Dempsey got a significant tribute in this past year's Super Bowl. Notice how the name Tom Dempsey equals 135 in both ordinal and reverse and 45 in reduction. In this past Super Bowl, we had two kickers, and one of them was named Ryan Suckup. And notice how his name equals 135 in both methods and 45. The other kicker was Harrison Butker, and look at Harrison Butker's birth numerology, 135 and 45. In that game, Harrison Butker made 3 field goals, which totaled 135 yards. That means each kick was an average of 45 yards. So these numbers got a huge tribute in the Super Bowl, and then it turns out, well, hey, Tom Dempsey, this legendary NFL kicker, has these exact same numbers. If you measure from Justin Tucker's birthday to the death of Tom Dempsey, you get 135 days. It was also 231 days before Tucker's next birthday, and 231 is the gematria of both Baltimore Ravens and Baltimore Ravens kicker. Furthermore, 231 is the 21st triangular number, and Thomas John Dempsey, his full name, summing to 21 in ordinal. And of course, here we are in the year 21, or 2021. The name Justin Paul Tucker, summing to 221. setting the NFL record in 2021. Tucker's kick was also on the date leaving 96 days in the year. Baltimore Ravens and Baltimore Ravens kicker equals 96. When Tom Dempsey's death was announced last year, it was the 96th day of the year. The name Thomas John Dempsey equals 96. Finally, Justin Tucker's record occurred on a date with primary numerology of 76. And the word kickers equals 76. But what stood out about this number in particular is that the longest field goal in the history of American football was actually kicked at the collegiate level by a man named Ove Johansson. And he made his record kick in the year 76, right? It was a 69-yard field goal. Meanwhile, in the NFL, the longest field goal attempt in history was a 76-yard attempt from Sebastian Janikowski. And that kick was such a joke. Janikowski lined up for a 76-yard attempt. And then when he kicked it, it fell like 20 yards short. He was kicking into the wind even. It was so stupid. And the guy who caught it, he wasn't even in the end zone when he caught it. It was ridiculous. So anyways, yeah, the number 76 stood out for that reason. But pretty fascinating stuff, all connected to World Lion Day, the death of Tom Dempsey. And remember, Tom Dempsey played for the New Orleans Saints. Saints equals 19 in reduction. He died of COVID-19. On the 19th day of the previous month, Sean Payton was diagnosed with COVID, and he's the coach of the New Orleans Saints. So there were some deep riddles there, all explained in the post. But let's move on to this recent grocery store shooting in the state of Tennessee. This happened in the city of Collierville, which is a distant suburb of Memphis. And earlier this year, I made a post and a pretty good video on a mass shooting that occurred at a Kroger grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. This post is linked in the description below. There was a lot to this riddle, and what I focused on in my video was how it was connected to two people in particular. That would be Bernard Kroger, who was the founder of Kroger Company, which owns King Soopers. And I also talked about how it was connected to current Kroger CEO, Rodney McMullen. So check that video out. The post is linked below. This shooting that happened this past week is also connected to these same characters. Now check this out. Measuring from the birthday of Bernard Kroger to the date of the shooting at this Kroger grocery store was exactly a span of 1,940 months. In numerology, this represents the number 194. In the alphabetic order, the Kroger Company sums to 194. In Jewish or Latin gematria, the cipher based in Latin, which uses that alphabet's order primarily, the Kroger Company sums to 929. And this shooting fell exactly a span of 929 days before the next Great American Total Solar Eclipse. And don't forget, United States of America has this 929 value as well. And that first King Soopers shooting definitely connected to the eclipse code. In fact, one of the witnesses that was interviewed by the news after the King Soopers shooting, her name was Sarah Moonshadow. Moonshadow, eclipse code. And that woman was at the grocery store with her son, like how the sun causes the moon's shadow. And by the way, that was all after, I found that out after I identified that the shooting was connected to the character Shadow Moon from the television series American Gods. And I don't think that's in the post, but I did mention that in the video. So, if you measure from the last Kroger grocery store shooting to this one, you get 6 months and 1 day. And look how old Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen was on the date of this shooting. 61 years and 61 days. The 61st prime number is 283, and this grocery store shooting fell 283 days after the last total solar eclipse. Remember, this 2020 total solar eclipse, a very significant one. The CVVAX was approved on this date. 283 is the Jewish gematria of the phrase, the moon. See this? 283 days after the eclipse. You'll notice how the moon also equals 99 in the reverse alphabetic order. This shooting was on the date that leaves 99 days in the year. It was in a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee, which equals 99. And remember, 23 is the 9th prime number, so this date, 9/23, can also be thought of as 99 in connection to the 99 days left in the year. Speaking of the moon has an equatorial diameter of 2,160 miles. Exactly. So the number 216 is connected to the moon. And 216 is, of course, 6 times 6 times 6. So here we have a shooting in Collierville, Tennessee, which equals 1321. And 1321 is the 216th prime number. See that? And then you look at Memphis, Tennessee, and in that same cipher you get 612, the inverse of 216. So these cities coded significantly with moon numbers. And to top this off, notice how Memphis, Tennessee equals 72 in reduction. This shooting fell 72 days before the next total solar eclipse. This is also a span of 73 days. 73, the value of Collierville, 73. Solar eclipse, 73. Notice how Collierville and solar eclipse have near perfect gematria overlap in the base 4 methods. And look at the date numerology of this shooting. 73, 19, 53. These are all numbers found in solar eclipse and Collierville. But there's even more. In Jewish gematria, solar eclipse sums to 433. And think about how in the 433rd episode of The Simpsons, Marge gets blinded by a solar eclipse. Well, if you measure to the first Great American total solar eclipse, which went directly over the state of Tennessee where this shooting was, measuring to the date of this shooting, you get 4 years and 33 days. More solar eclipse numbers. 433, the 84th prime number, this connected to Collierville, solar eclipse. You also get a 69 and 120. More eclipse numbers. And then Kroger, headquartered in Cincinnati. I discuss commonly how Cincinnati is another number, or another city, coded with moon numbers. All right, before looking at this historical decode with Mark McGwire and Roger Maris, I want to take a look at the recent birth of a new addition to the family of Ronda Rousey and Travis Browne. And this is a pretty cool one. Now, understand, I put this in the organic matrix section of my blog. I don't really know how organic this really is. There's some wild numerology here. But let's dive in anyway. We start with the name of the newborn. And Ronda's daughter's name is La'akea, Hawaiian name Browne. And this name in the alphabetic order Look at this. It sums to 279, the standard alphabetic order. And Laakea was born on the 27th of September, the date written 27/9. So right off the bat, we know there's a strong riddle here. Ronda Rousey sums to 61 in reverse reduction. Her full name 601 in primes. One of the best known MMA fighters of all time. MMA equals 61. Now the number 61 is a prime number. And 61 is the 18th prime number. See this? We're going to talk about this in the story with Mark McGwire as well. And think about the name Ronda Rousey, right? R is the 18th letter. In reduction, RR equals 18. Ronda Rousey's birth numerology, if you add the digits together, you get 18. If you multiply all the digits together, you get 1008. And now her daughter's name equals 108 and 180. So you get a double 18, right? If you take out the middle name, Laakea Browne even sums to 108 in the alphabetic order. And look how old Ronda Rousey was when she gave birth. 1,808 weeks and 1 day old. The birth made headlines the following day, which was exactly 18 weeks before Ronda's birthday. Measuring to Ronda's February 1st birthday next year, we find that her daughter was born 127 days before her birthday. And this is another prime number, the 31st. The name Laakea equals 31 ordinal. The last name Rousey equals 31 in reduction. Her husband's last name is Browne, which also equals 31. And obligatory shout out to Dan Barrett, who had identified long ago that the number most closely associated with Ronda Rousey might be actually 34. And a big piece of this riddle is that she made her debut in the WWE at WrestleMania 34. And I noticed that Ronda gave birth exactly 34 weeks after her birthday. And when you add her name to Travis Browne's, you get 340. Now, before digging into this secret society riddle, well, actually, let's get right to it. This is really strange. So let's look at Travis Browne, right? When you measure from his birthday to Ronda Rousey's birthday, you get exactly 1,660 days, like the number 166 in numerology. The name Travis Browne, remarkably, has an ordinal value of 166. When Ronda got married to Travis Browne, look how old she was, 11,166 days old. Now, 166, it's not a number I talk about terribly often, but it is the ordinal value of Secret Society 166. And the Secret Society I most often talk about now on this channel is the Jesuit order. And the Jesuit order, or the Society of Jesus, celebrates their anniversary on September 27th, which is the same day that Ronda's daughter was born. In the alphabetic order, the Jesuit order sums to 17-7, right? And this can be like a date, the 17th of July. Travis Browne was born on the 17th of July. And the last name Browne even has this 177 value in Jewish Gematria. In the alphabetic order, the name Browne equals 77. His daughter was born on a date with primary numerology of 77. In fact, the name Travis Browne also sums to 77. Their daughter's name, Laakea Browne also sums to 72 in reverse reduction. And this is the same as Jesuit Order 72. And her birthday was 72 days after her father's birthday, Travis Browne, 72. Now, the Society of Jesus was established in the year 1540. And think of this like the number 154. And check out Travis Browne's full name, Travis Hawaiian name Browne, which intriguingly sums to 154. And seeing as we're on the topic of the Jesuit Order and September 27th, 2 days ago, on the 27th, you may have noticed that my website all of a sudden was throwing internal server errors all day. And I opened up a ticket with tech support. I actually never heard back from them. I don't know what they did or if they did anything, but it did just start working the next day. So I put a little tweet out because you'll see here that the Jesuit Order just turned 481 years old. And in one of the ciphers I teach, Frank Baconis, this is a cipher that mixes capital letters and small letters all with the standard alphabetic order. www.gematrinator.com equals 481. Now that is with a capital G. You could also say it just started the Society's 482nd year. Oh, that's right. Thanks to Bobby for pointing out, Mercury went retrograde on September 27th, which I looked up earlier this week, but I forgot to make that connection. So, I'm definitely connected to Mercury. I'm a Gemini, for instance. The ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. You know what? Magic square of Mercury actually ties into. I want to show you how this ties together. So let's go to Mercury. The magic square of Mercury is 8 by 8, right? And this means there's 64 squares in the magic square of Mercury. And the 64th triangular number is 2080. So if you add up every square in this magic square, you get 2080. Well, there's a cipher on my website called Squares. And this takes the alphabetic order and uses the square value. And check out my name, Derek Takori. In the Squares cipher is 2080. So somehow I'm connected to the magic square of Mercury, which rules my birth sign, through this number 2080. And my birthday, June 4th, 6-4. 64 squares in the magic square. The word birthday equals 604 even. In Gematria. So, was it the Jesuit Order taking down my website with some sort of DDoS? I mean, it seems ridiculous, but you never know. I kind of like the Mercury retrograde theory myself, but I guess that's for you to decide. We'll never know. All right. So moving on to the next story I want to take a glance at. This all started a few nights ago when I was browsing through one of my old journals that was locked away in one of my old totes. And I was going through some of the things I had drawn, some of the things I was writing and doing at the time. And this journal I noticed was from when I was 13 years old. It was like in 8th grade. It was the year 1998. I could tell based on all the stuff in there. And this totally blew my mind. I found what I believe is my first ever decode. So back in the year 1998, I was a huge baseball fan. Of course, it's still hard for me not to be a baseball fan. But I was tracking Mark McGwire's race for 61, and I started hearing some strange numerical oddities, and I decided to write them down. So even 13-year-old me, I was already on the path that I was going to be on. I mean, who would have thought that I'd be known in small pockets all over the world for this kind of thing in the future? But Some of this stuff is actually pretty interesting. I point out how Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in the year 61. Mark McGwire hit 61 home runs on his dad. Let me start that over. McGwire hit his 61st home run on his dad's 61st birthday. Mark McGwire was born exactly 2 years after Roger Maris hit his 61st home run. Mark McGwire was 34 years old. 34 has the same reduction value as 61. So this is kind of funny, right? Now, some of these things in here are a stretch. And I bet, and I think, look at this, I even put plus and minuses next to these, like to denote whether I thought they were good. And one of these is really playing with numbers. I said, hey, if he hit the home run on the 7th, it would have been 25 days before his birthday, and McGwire wears number 25. But he was off by 1 day, right? So if he hits it on the 6th, it was off by 1 day. This is stupid. So if I knew Gematria back then, I would have been a lot better at this. One other thing I mentioned that I liked is that Mark McGwire was the 3rd player in history to hit 60 home runs. And the baseball that he hit for his 60th was marked with the number 3 with invisible ink. And he hit that on the 3rd pitch of the at-bat. So here I am, 23 years later, and my decode's got a little better, right? So let's do a little dive here into Mark McGwire and Roger Maris. So we start with the full name, Roger Eugene Maris. In a cipher called trigonal, which uses triangular numbers, Maris's full name sums to 1412. And 1412 is a pretty interesting number. It's one I've been talking about a lot over the past year, mostly because this past significant eclipse was on the date 1412, the 14th of December, right? When Roger Maris broke Babe Ruth's record and hit his 61st home run in the year 61, he was a span of exactly 1,412 weeks old. And then look at the date that Roger Maris died on, the 14th of December in the year 1985. How wild is that? So throughout the season, Maris was chasing the record of 60, which Babe Ruth had set a number of years prior, back in, I think, 1929. And the number 60 is the ordinal value of Maris and the reduction value of Roger Maris, 60. He hit number 61 as a Yankee, and the word Yankee equals 61. Think about 61 minutes on a clock. This would be 1 hour and 1 minute. Maris hit his 61st home run on October 1st, which is the date written 10/1, like 1 hour and 1 minute. October 1st is also the birthday of Mark McGwire, who would go on to break Roger Maris's record in 1998. Mark McGwire broke the record playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, which sums to 61. And amazingly, he hit number 61 on the birthday of his father, John. John equals 61. And of course, it was John's 61st birthday. It just so happens that John McGwire, Mark's father, passed away this past December on the 29th. And check out the primary numerology of that date. He died on a date with 61 numerology. Can you believe that? When Roger Maris hit 61 home runs, he did it in 161 games. And check out how the name Mark David McGwire equals 161. McGwire accomplished his feat in the year 98, which equals 161. This connects to Roger Maris's birthplace of Hibbing, Minnesota, which also yields a 161. Now, as I pointed out in my story decoding Ronda Rousey's birth, the number 61 is the 18th prime number, and the number 18 is very significant to the game of baseball, which sums to 18 in full reduction. And of course, with 9 players on each team active in the game, that's 18 total. In the alphabetic order, the name Roger Eugene Maris sums to 180, like 18. He broke the record for most home runs, which equals 180. This is Major League Baseball. Major League equals 108. The word baseball equals 108. And every baseball has 108 double stitches. Think about how the Cubs broke a 108-year curse. That was pretty significant. Mark McGwire's full name equals 180, like 18, right? 180. He played for the Cardinals. Cardinals equals 81, the inverse of 18. And you may remember back in 1998, Mark McGwire was in a race with Sammy Sosa to break that record because Sammy Sosa hit 66 home runs that same year. And look at Sammy Sosa's full name, right? 108. With the S exception, you even get 81. Mark McGwire's father, John McGwire, the date that he died also had numerology of 81 and 18. That's to go along with the 61 that I pointed out. So next I want to talk about a very significant 666 riddle to this. And think about how Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, their big accomplishments occurred in the year 1998. Well, 1998 is a multiple of the number 666. 666 times 3 is 1998. So the number 666 is coded into this whole story. We start with the name Roger Eugene Maris, which sums to 252 in the reverse alphabetic order. And by the way, I should point out that 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18, which was a number we just talked a lot about here. But anyway, in English gematria, the name Roger also equals 252. In reduction, Roger equals 36. And the number 666 is the 36th triangular number. Excuse me, had to drink some water. Now, if you measure from the death of Roger Maris to the Major League debut of Mark McGwire, you get exactly 252 days, which is also 36 weeks. And this stands out because his father, John McGwire, also died 252 days or 36 weeks before his own birthday. Again, his birthday, his 61st birthday, is when his son hit number 61. Using reverse Sumerian gematria, which is the cipher that multiplies the alphabetic order by 6, the name McGwire equals 666. The name Roger Maris equals 60 and 66. And look at the years that Roger Maris played for the Yankees from 1960 through 66. 60, 66. And then on top of this, if you turn the number 666 upside down, it's 999. Roger Eugene Maris equals 90, and then 99 with the S exception. 90, 99, 90, right? Major League equals 999. And look how old John McGwire was when he died. He was 999 months old. Now, if you write out the number 666 in Gematria, using the alphabetic order, you get a value of 275. Well, isn't it amazing that Roger Maris hit a total of 275 home runs in his career? The name John Thomas McGwire has matching gematria with 666 and number of the beast. And when we're talking about 666, you have to acknowledge the fact that 33 is connected. First of all, the number 33 equals 66 and 60, like 666. It also equals 156, which is the value of 666, and triple sixes. Roger Maris finished his career with the St. Louis Cardinals. Mark McGwire hit his 61st home run after being traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, when McGwire was traded to St. Louis, he was 33 years and 303 days old. All right, and one last element to this riddle we need to look at, and we're going to further examine the numerology of John McGwire. Now, John McGwire was a dentist, and this sums to 44. And the number 44 is a big number for home runs in Major League Baseball. Consider how Hank Aaron, who recently died back in January, Hank Aaron wore number 44 for his entire career. No one has hit more home runs in their career than Hank Aaron. And his number 44 is retired in 2 states, Wisconsin and Georgia. These are the only 2 states that sum to 44 in reduction. Measuring from Mark McGwire's Major League debut to the date that he broke Roger Maris's record was exactly 4,400 days. And notice I put 2 dates here. This is because McGwire hit number 61, and then he hit number 62, the record-breaking home run, a day later. His record also fell exactly 404 days after he was traded to St. Louis for another 44. When he broke the record, it was on a date with 44 numerology. And when we think of home runs, there's one other slugger that comes to mind in the annals of baseball history, Babe Ruth, whose single-season record was broken by Roger Maris. It was Babe Ruth's career record, which was broken by Hank Aaron. George Herman Babe Ruth sums to 193 in ordinal, which is the 44th prime number. Measuring from the birth of Roger Maris to the birth of John McGwire is even 1,093 days. And when the Cardinals traded Mark McGwire, when the Cardinals got Mark McGwire, they got him 11,193 days after they got Roger Maris. And, geez, I forget, there's even more, okay? So when Roger Maris was traded to the Cardinals, it was on the date December 8th. See this? December 8th or 12/8. Well, the name John equals 128, and John died 12,800 days after Roger Maris died. John was a total of 30,430 days, which represents the number 343 in numerology. And 343 is 7 times 7 times 7. Look at the name John McGwire, 777 in Fibonacci. So this one was a mouthful, but holy cow. Incredibly strong connections here. And a second obligatory shout out to Zenith of the Alpha. pointing out some more syncs with 666 and 999 in these prime number ciphers. I kind of like stuff like this, right? Like, so 999 summing to 666 in reverse primes. 999 inverted, 666 in primes. Pretty cool stuff. You know, you don't see me pull out these those mathematical ciphers for stuff like that too often, but I do appreciate what other people discover in them. They're pretty fascinating. For the next story, we're going to go back and revisit the story of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. And of course, we got some links to pull up first here, so let me do that. First of all, Dog the Bounty Hunter. What we're going to focus on is how his reappearance in the mainstream media is connected to a recent television series that started in 2019. So, for starters, let's look at the number 75, because this was in the headlines yesterday. And it was said that Dog the Bounty Hunter was 75 miles from Brian Laundrie's family home. And I was like, oh, 75. Well, that stands out. Because Dog's full name, Dwayne Lee Chapman, sums to 75 in reverse reduction. And he's in Pinellas County, helping the family of Gabrielle Petito. Both of those also summing to 75. Now, when Dog announced that he was helping in the search, it was on September 25th, which was a date with primary numerology of 75. Now, last week, I talked about how the death and disappearance of Gabby Petito, as well as the discovery of her remains, was connected to the death of Norm Macdonald, which was really one of the major celebrity deaths of this year. And I pointed out how the name Norman equals 75, and Macdonald was born on the date that leaves 75 days in the year. But the number 75 stands out for another reason. In last December, Star Wars actor Jeremy Bulloch, who played the bounty hunter Boba Fett, died at age 75. And the death of this bounty hunter is connected to Dog the Bounty Hunter. And I even pointed this out in this post. On the date that Boba Fett died, it was December 17th when the sun was at 266 degrees of the ecliptic. And Jeremy Bulloch played Boba Fett, which equals 266 in Gematria. And Bulloch died on December 17th, which is the birthday of Pope Francis. And Pope Francis is the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church. The current Star Wars bounty hunter, which is featured on the show The Mandalorian, bounty hunter Din Djarin equals 266. And the man who plays that character, Pedro Pascal, was born exactly 266 months after Dog the Bounty Hunter. Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife, Beth Chapman, died on 26/6 in the year 2019, like 266. So how strange is it now that we get the death of Norm Macdonald, which is connected, and the name Jeremy Bulloch sums to 149. Norm Macdonald died on the 14th of September. Norman G. Macdonald equals 149. But there's something very strong about this connection to the Catholic Church. If we measure from Pope Francis's birthday, December 17th of 36, measuring to the death of Norm Macdonald, notice how the Pope was just about to turn 1,017 months, like the number 1017. And intriguingly, Norm Macdonald was born on 1017. Norm Macdonald was a longtime star of Saturday Night Live and the Weekend Update segment in particular. And Norm Macdonald got his own sitcom after he left SNL in the year 99. And the number 99 is important here. In trigonal gematria, the name Norm Macdonald equals 909. And Saturday Night Live recently had their 909th episode. See this? 909. And this was an episode, this was the season finale of season 46. And consider how the word sacrifice equals 46. And on this 909th episode, we had an appearance by Lil Nas X. And this is a little freak who sold these Satan shoes, 666 pairs. He had a wardrobe malfunction. I did a video on this a few weeks ago when I talked about the death of Trevor Moore, who got his start with Saturday Night Live. I talked about how his death was connected to Lorne Michaels and the such. And it turns out that this was also connected to the death of Norm Macdonald. So measuring from the death of Jeremy Bulloch to the appearance of the bounty hunter in the media was 282 days. This is a number found in both Dwayne Lee Chapman and Norman Macdonald. With the end date, this is also 283 days, a number found in the gematria of both Jeremy Bulloch and Norman G. Macdonald. But what really brings this together is that 283 is the 61st prime number, another connection I mentioned earlier. And Norm Macdonald died at the age of 61. Norman Macdonald, 61. Dwayne Chapman, 61. Again, 61 minutes on the clock is 1 hour and 1 minute. The name Dwayne Chapman equals 101. The name Jeremy Andrew Bulloch equals 101, so does Norman. And back in the year 2010, there was a movie called The Bounty Hunter that was released in theaters. And isn't it wild that this release date was March 19th? March 19th was the birthday of Gabby Petito. And this movie came out on Gabby's 11th birthday. 11, a number that's found in the gematria of Dwayne Chapman, the bounty hunter. Another interesting note is that Dog announced his help on a date with standard numerology of 55. If you add 9 plus 25 plus 21. And the name Dog equals 55. Oh, notice how Dog is 61. I missed this. Norm dead at 61. Dwayne Chapman, Norm Macdonald, 61. But Dog is 55, and so is Norm Macdonald, 55. And, hell, I pointed out how important the number 55 is to Norm. His television series, The Norm Show, debuted on a date with numerology of 55. And he was 2,057 weeks old when that happened. 257, the 55th prime number. Norm died on the 257th day of the year. Well, it turns out that Norm Macdonald's birthday falls 257 days after Dog's. But here's the big kicker, okay? And this to me cements the connection. So we all know Dog the Bounty Hunter from the television series called Dog the Bounty Hunter, but that show ended long, long ago. There's a new series called Dogs Most Wanted, which premiered on September 4th in 2019. And amazingly, I found the same numbers when measuring from this television series that I did when I measured from the Norm show. Dogs Most Wanted premiered 107 weeks and 3 days before Dog the Bounty Hunter joined the chase for Brian Laundrie. And the name Chapman equals 173. Norm Macdonald's full name, Norman Gene Macdonald, sums to 173. And Norm died exactly 1,173 weeks after the debut of The Norm Show, which was his sitcom. The final episode of that series aired on April 6th, a date that falls 173 days after the date Norm was born. Gabby Petito went missing when she was 1,173 weeks old. And isn't it funny that missing white girl equals 1,173 in Gematria? And just to refresh the connection that really brings this all together, Gabby Petito was born 5 days before the debut of The Norm Show, and then her remains were found 5 days after Norm Macdonald died. She has birth numerology of 50, which reduces to 5. Gabby Petito equals 50, and Macdonald equals 50. And when you're watching the interviews of the family, I noticed that they keep bringing up the Fifth Amendment. Because Brian Laundrie and his family, right, they're not talking. They're not saying anything. They have the right to remain silent. And I noticed that Gabby Petito's, like her stepfather or her uncle or something, just happens to be a fire chief in the city that she was born in. And he's like, yeah, I understand that he's got a right to remain silent, but this is ridiculous. So it's strange because we see all of these amendments under attack. Obviously, the First Amendment under attack, as my channel is proof of. The Second Amendment always being jabbed at by the New World Order mafia. Is it possible they're coming after the Fifth Amendment and our right not to incriminate ourselves? Who knows? Some more connections I listed here between Norm Macdonald and Dwayne Dog Chapman. Again, it feels like a loose connection, but when you really do a deep dive, you see that these things are connected, without a doubt. And again, Norm Macdonald, one of the greatest comedians of all time, one of the funniest men who's lived, I don't know, that I'm aware of. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Norm Macdonald also died 5 days after Adam Sandler's 55th birthday. And he starred in a couple of films with Adam Sandler back in the 90s. All right, guys, what's left to decode? How about the Google Doodle this week of Christopher Reeve? Let's take a look at how this is connected to the death of Christopher Reeve, as well as the death of his wife, Dana Reeve, who passed away less than 2 years after Chris did, in the year 2006. Now, Google paid tribute to former Superman actor Christopher Reeve on his 69th birthday, which was a date with primary numerology of 75. And when you write out Christopher Reeve, Superman, you get the 69th and 75th prime numbers in Gematria. But to really understand this riddle, we need to think about how this name is spelled. Christopher Reeve. Think revelation of Christ, right? This is a clear connection. Reeve, Revelation, and then you got the Christ. Reeve died on the date October 10th, which is written internationally as 1010. And the word revelation sums to 1010 in Jewish or Latin Gematria. Revelation reveals the number of the beast to be 666. And check out how the name Christopher Reeve has overlap with 666 in that Latin cipher. 666 days on the calendar is 95 weeks. And when you write out 666, it sums to 95 in reduction. The name Christopher Reeve sums to 95 in reduction. And he's famous for playing Superman, whose real name was Clark Kent, which sums to 95 in ordinal. I mentioned the date 1010 as far as his death. The number 10 is linked to the number 55 because 55 is the 10th Fibonacci and the 10th triangular number. The first Superman movie that Christopher Reeve starred in had a record budget of $55 million. And when this Google Doodle showed up, the date had standard numerology of 55. In the alphabetic order, the name Reeve equals 55. Now, the 55th prime number is 257. The full name, Christopher Dallier Reeve, sums to 257. Clark Kent, Superman, equals 257 in reverse. When Christopher Reeve suffered a catastrophic injury that paralyzed him, it occurred on May 27th, which is the date written 527. These are the same digits found in his name, Christopher Dallier Reeve, Clark Kent Superman, 257. Now, the date can be written 27/5, right? The 27th of May. All right, my keyboard's screwing up here. There we go. 27/5. And this is like 275. Notice how the name Kent equals 275. But this 275, remember I just talked about this in the story about Roger Maris. 666 has ordinal gematria of 275. This means that in the Sumerian cipher, which is the alphabetic order times 6, 666 equals 1650. And if you measure from the death of Christopher Reeve to the date that Google paid tribute with a doodle, it was exactly 16 years and 50 weeks. 1650. Back in the year 2013, there was a new Superman film called Man of Steel. And I just pointed out how this was released on the 165th day of the year. So the number 666, again, that's the 36th triangular number. Well, then Christopher Reeve's wife, Dana, would die in the year 2006 on the date 3/6, or March 6th. Look how old Christopher Reeve would have been on the date that Dana died. 19,520 days. Well, that stands out because Christopher Reeve was born in the year 1952. And by the way, we're talking about the revelation of Christ and how this all ties in. Notice how Christopher Reeve was born on September 25th, the date written 925. In English Gematria, the name Jesus Christ equals 925, linking us to Reeve's birthday. Now, when Dana Reeve died, it was a date with primary numerology of 35. This is the reduction value of Superman. And the Google Doodle was even 350 days after the anniversary of Reeve's death. Meanwhile, the numerology of Reeve's death was 44. And 44 is the value of Superman with the S exception. His wife Dana would go on to die at the age of 44. She was diagnosed with cancer in the 44th week after her husband died. And think about how the words cancer, chemo, kill all equal 44. In fact, her diagnosis was on the date leaving 144 days in the year. And 44 equals 144. A couple more snippets here. Christopher Reeve was born on the 269th day of a leap year. 269 is the Jewish value of Clark Kent, the character he was famous for playing. This is also the 57th prime number, and the name Chris equals 57. When Christopher Reeve was first rushed to the hospital one day prior to his death, it was on October 9th, 10/9. Notice how Superman equals 109, so does Reeve. And the S on his chest, the S is the 19th letter. The Google Doodle had a date numerology of 19. Pointing out in the chat here that the director of Superman recently died this year, too. That's interesting. Richard Donner. Yeah, directed the landmark Superman film in 78. So, yeah, I bet it's connected. He died on July 5th of 2021. Let's see. Dude, I think my keyboard's dying. So let's see, that was 82 days before the Google Doodle. Oh, here we go. 220. So Richard Donner sums to 220 in the reverse alphabetic order. And he died 2 months, 20 days before the Google Doodle. Wow, look, he died on July 5th, the date written 7/5. And then the Google Doodle had numerology of 75. Here's another Hollywood director who thought his name sounded too Jewish. Schwartzberg. Yeah, that's a very Jewish name. He changed it just to Donner. Imagine being ashamed of your own name. That must suck, right? All these guys having to change their names so no one knows who they really are. What the hell? So let's see. April 24th, 1930. Yeah, I'm not going to do a full decode on this guy, but I'm seeing some stuff that I want to point out. Yeah, look at this. 103 was his real name. He died 10 weeks and 3 days after his birthday. 91, the 13th triangular. So thanks for this snippet. This is definitely connected. All right. Before I get into the sad stories about CV19, I want to talk about a fun story. This occurring in my home state of Wisconsin with... Look, I don't believe that anyone should have heroes. I don't believe that we should be really looking up to other people too much. But, man, if there's one guy in Milwaukee that I love the most who's not related to me, it might be Bob Uecker, Like I said, I grew up a huge baseball fan. It's still a sport that I appreciate to this day. And there's no one like Bob Uecker. I mean, after Vin Scully left the Dodgers, Bob Uecker is like the last of a dying breed of epic baseball announcers. And this past Sunday, our governor declared that it would be Bob Uecker Day. And it just so happened that this was the Brewers' last home game of the season. The Brewers also clinched the Central Division on this date, Bob Uecker Day. So why was Sunday, September 25th selected for Bob Uecker Day? Bob Uecker was born on January 26th of 1934, which means September 25th falls 242 days after his birthday. In Gematria, the team that he commentates, Milwaukee Brewers, has double Gematria of 242 in both the reverse alphabetic order and Francis Bacon with capital letters, 242. Using the alphabetic order, Brewers radio announcer also equals 242. And this is, of course, Bob Uecker's job. The Brewers are owned by Mark Attanasio. And notice how his name is listed as Mark L. Attanasio. This name sums to 223 in the reverse alphabetic order. And he owns the Milwaukee Brewers, which equals 223. Mark Attanasio purchased the Milwaukee Brewers for, you guessed it, $223 million. Now, the inverse of 223 is 322. And if you measure from Bob Uecker's date of birth to Bob Uecker Day, you get a span of exactly 32,020 days. Now, this is also a span of exactly 1,052 months. The phrase radio announcer equals 152. Notice how radio announcer equals 603. The name Uecker equals 63. And I think Bob Uecker is more numerically suited to call Brewer baseball games than I am to teach Gematria. So we start with the value of Bob Uecker summing to 37 and 53. Milwaukee equals 37 and 53. Uecker's full name sums to 99 in both reduction methods. 99, 99. The name Uecker also equals 99 and 36. And this man has been calling Brewers games for over 50 years. Look at Brewers. 90, 99, 36. With the S exception, Milwaukee, Wisconsin even equals 99. Bob Uecker equals 82, so does Milwaukee Brewers, so does radio announcer. And the only World Series the Brewers have ever made was the year 82. Pretty cool stuff. You know, maybe this is organic. I don't know. I mean, I always wonder when it comes to this kind of thing because some people in the truth community who, I think a lot of people let the numbers control what they think a little bit too much. And, of course, I'm guilty of this at times. I used to be more into this, but, a lot of people might think Bob Uecker's an actor, right? Because he's got the numbers for it. And that's why he's doing it. But, when I talk about numerology on this channel, I talk more about how these numbers are representatives of certain wavelengths, certain vibrations that we all are part of. And, maybe Bob Uecker loves baseball and the Milwaukee Brewers because he has the same numbers. Let's recap my numerology real briefly. My name, Derek Takuri, summing to 142 and 182. And I teach Gematria, 142, and Synchronicity, which is 182. My first name, Derek, has the same gematria as numbers in 3 of the 4 base ciphers. And then my last name, Tikuri, equals 99 and 90, which is, of course, like Brewers, my favorite team. Letters equals 99 and 90. My full name sums to 1198. It wasn't until I built this calculator that we started talking about reverse gematria, which is 1198. In fact, I think the word reverse equals Derek. Look at this, 92, 97, 43, Derek, 43, 92. I mean, what the hell, right? And then my birthday is 604, birthday 604. I could go on, but I think you get the point, right? And all of this that I'm talking about are things I discovered after I started teaching gematria and built this calculator. So it's a crazy world we live in. It's an amazing world we live in. And, you know, I feel like every video I just have to, point out that my view on numerology is always evolving. So now, did they select this date organically? I don't think so, no. I think they know how old Bob Uecker is. They measured to his age, and they put this day on this date. But, you know, I don't think anybody told Bob Uecker, like, hey, you're going to be the Brewers announcer your whole life because you have the right numbers. Because this guy genuinely loves it, you can tell, and he's great at it. So, all right. My 2 cents are done on this story. Next, we're going to talk about 3 quick stories here about the virus, the major story that's been going on over the past year and a half that just won't die. On September 19th, we learned that Chris Rock, despite being vaccinated, came down with COVID-19. And again, nothing about this makes sense. You know, if you got the vax and then you got the virus, wouldn't you be angry that you got the vaccine but still got the virus? But for some reason, every time a vaccinated celebrity gets it, they come out and say, hey, make sure you get it too. Why? What is going on? Like, how are people falling for that? It's very bizarre. But let's explain why Chris Rock made the tweet on September 19th and then made headlines on September 20th the next day. So September 20th had numerology of 50, and the name Chris Rock sums to 50 in standard reduction. September 20th is the date that leaves 263 days in the year. My bad. It's the 263rd day of the year. And that's the 56th prime number. And Chris Rock is currently 56 years old. The word coronavirus equals 56 and 70 in reduction. September 20th also had primary numerology of 70. And don't forget, the name Chris has matching gematria with Corona, 30 and 33. Chris revealed his corona diagnosis on the 19th, which fell 224 days after his birthday. The name Chris equals 19 or 190. The word corona equals 224. Now the 19th prime number is 67. Notice how both Christopher and COVID-19 equals 67. They both also equal 139, which is the 34th prime number. And this news story had numerology of 34. Using the alphabetic order, COVID-19 sums to 72. Breakthrough case sums to 72 in reduction. And check out Chris Rock's birthday, February 7th, written 7/2. Chris Rock has primary birth numerology of 93, Rock equals 93. So does coronavirus 930. And I talk a little bit about how this is connected to the eclipse code, and particularly the 2024 total solar eclipse, as he revealed his diagnosis 224 days after his birthday. And I just love how every single month on the 19th, one or two celebrities come out and say they have COVID-19, but no one ever notices. It's on the 19th so frequently. But what's especially strange about this story with Chris Rock is how it connects to another Chris having coronavirus. That would be Chris Paul. And I have a video dedicated to this story on my channel. You can search for it if you like. But Chris Paul was diagnosed with CV19 on the date June 16th, which is written 616, right? And 616, the original number of the beast. This was a huge 666 number of the beast riddle, which I decoded. Well, now we get another Chris Rock, diagnosed with coronavirus on 9/19, which is the date 616 flipped upside down. These dates are, of course, separated by 3 months, 3 days. Remember, Chris and Corona both equaling 33. Chris Rock is currently 56 years old, like coronavirus 56. Chris Paul was born on 5/6, or, like 56. In English extended gematria, Chris Paul's full name sums to 1515, which matches 33, 1515. And again, these stories separated by 3 months, 3 days. Notice how in the alphabetic order, 33 sums to 156. And if you measure from Chris Paul's birthday to Chris Rock's birthday, you get 1,056 weeks. The 33rd prime number is 137. Chris Rock was diagnosed 137 days after Chris Paul's birthday. This was also 136 days without the end date, and the name Chris Paul sums to 136 in reverse. So, what a frickin' clown this Chris Rock, hey? Hey guys, I got the vaccine and then I got sick. Make sure you get the vaccine too. Huh? Huh? We had another big CV19 story this past week, and it happened on the television show The View, which might be the worst television show in the history of the world. Now, this awkward scenario didn't just happen on any random episode. It actually happened right as the hosts were getting ready to introduce Kamala Harris. And this is so funny because Kamala Harris, won't answer any important questions. And that's kind of her character, as we're learning. She just laughs. She's just the cool girl. She just sleeps with, whoever she needs to get into whatever role, I'm assuming. Well, how funny is it that Sunny Hostin, whose name is, of course, Hostin, and here she's the host of the show, but check out her birthday, October 20th. That's the same birthday as Kamala Harris, October 20th. So one of the hosts that got kicked off the show as Kamala was about to get on the show has the same birthday. Now, on this channel, I commonly talk about how the coronavirus is the ultimate occult eclipse ritual. And it's all right there in the word, because corona actually is a reference to the atmosphere of the sun, which is only visible during a total solar eclipse. And how funny is it that this woman's name is Sunny, right? Connected to the sun. The name Sunny even equals 93. The sun is said to be 93 million miles away. The name Sunny Hostin has the same gematria as coronavirus, 56 and 70. And she was introducing Kamala Harris, who is, of course, 56 years old, just like Chris Rock. This episode was a span of 27 days before the birthday of Kamala and Sunny Hostin. Notice how the word sun equals 27. Sunny Hostin's birthday has numerology of 27 and 54. Sun equals 54 and 18. And then this incident on The View happened on a date with numerology of 54 and 18. Again, all connected to the sun, the corona. September 24th had primary numerology of 74, which connects us to the total solar eclipse code, 704 in Jewish. This episode fell 9 months and 11 days after the last total solar eclipse. And in Greek isopsophy, total eclipse is 9/11. Notice how these two hosts, Anna Navarro, who was also diagnosed, her name equals 994, like total solar eclipse in English. Sunny Hostin's full name equals 280, like total solar eclipse in Hebrew. So a big eclipse riddle with this one. These two hosts, notice how their birthdays are separated by 1,164 days. Well, maybe it's the rule of Kalel, the one-off rule. But coronavirus equals 1163, so you have that right there. But before we wrap this up, I got one more decode about the CV bug, which is not at all what we're told. Of course, we're told it's a contagious virus that passes from one person to another and then kills them. Something much deeper going on with this, but I digress, as I'd like to keep my channel online here. We recently had the death of an Israeli basketball league coach named Eric Alfasi due to COVID-19, and this right here flies in the face of everything we're being told about the VAXX. The news says that if you get the VAX, you're going to be like 99% or like 99.99% likely not to get hospitalized or die. Now, here's a story about a man who got the vaccine, the full vax, and still caught coronavirus and died. Now, how many other celebrities can you remember who were young and in shape, in their 40s or whatever, and died because of CV-19? Like maybe one. There was that actor, that Nick Cordero or something. But it's not killing anybody. Well, here is the death of someone who's in pretty good shape. I think he was 47 or 49, a basketball coach. Double VAX'd, but still dies. So the name Eric Alfasi, in Hebrew, Alfasi sums to 19. Dead of CV-19. He died on a date with primary numerology of 72. COVID-19 equals 72. It was the 22nd day of the month. The word basketball equals 22. Using the standard alphabetic order, the name Eric Alfasi sums to 83. And Eric Alfasi died 83 days after his birthday. The word murder equals 83. Been talking about how coronavirus equals 56 in reduction. Alfasi died exactly 560 days after the World Health Organization declared a pandemic. And notice how the name Eric Alfasi also equals 56 and 70, just like coronavirus. In Jewish gematria, corona equals 224, Remember, Chris Rock revealed his diagnosis 224 days after his birthday. The name Eric Alfasi equals 224 in Jewish Gematria. So 3 big COVID stories, all with big 56 connections. And, yeah, there you have it. Just the never-ending news cycle. What do you guys think? How many more years of CV19 do we have to endure? I'm going to say another year, probably. I thought originally it was going to be a 5-year plan, but I don't know. I mean, I look around and even the people who buy into the whole CV thing are pretty much done with it as far as I know. Like this idea that unvaccinated people are dangerous to vaccinated people. I've yet to meet anyone in person who actually believes that, which is reassuring because it's something the news has really been pushing. It's something they hung their hat on and really relied on, but I think they jumped the shark a little bit, you know? Like, even sheeple are a little bit more reasonable than they give them credit for, maybe. But, again, a lot of people experiencing different things, you know, different companies with different mandates. I've noticed a lot of bigger cities have more stringent mandates. Over the past couple of weeks, I've noticed in Milwaukee that a couple of businesses have put their mask mandate signs back up. The grocery store nearby here I saw, and I was like, oh, God, here we go. But then, you know, I walked around the store, and I only saw like 2 people or 3 people in a mask. And when I was there, it was during like peak old person shopping hours. So there were a lot of elderly people, and there were like no elderly people wearing masks. And I thought, man, thank God, this feels so much better than walking around in a sea of morons suffocating themselves with face diapers. I was very happy to see that. So hopefully the situation as far as people waking up and whatnot is only going to get better and better. I think, yeah, like I said, 2025 is what they were planning on to begin with. I don't know how much longer they're planning to push the VAXs for, but I think up through 2025 is when this booster thing is really going to get pushed, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But this really is the depopulation agenda that I feared. Someone made a comment on a video of mine a couple weeks ago, and let's see if I can't find this real quick. I have a secondary backup YouTube channel, which I never really mentioned, but it's under my regular name, Derek Takuri, and I haven't uploaded here in like years, but on this channel, I have some old documentaries and videos I put together, and one of those videos is this one on September 11th, which, hilariously, this video just loaded at 9 minutes and 11 seconds. Did I do that on purpose? Man, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, sometimes I get so tripped out that like the wiring in my brain like gets disconnected and I have to like take a second and recongregate. Why does this say 9/11? Who did this? Anyway, so I made this video on 9/11 or about 9/11, and in this video I talk about the Georgia Guidestones. Who knows when I do? But when I discussed the Georgia Guidestones in this video, I actually took like a minute to talk about how I was very concerned that between the time I made this video and the next Great American Eclipse, that there would be a major depopulation event. And shit, sure enough, at the midway point, the exact midway point of the 2 Great American Eclipses, we get the approval of the VAXX. And I believe that, yes, this is probably the giant depopulation agenda that I forecasted several years ago. I put a lot of it together over time, but Okay, here it is. At the very end of this video, I talk about the Georgia Guidestones. And if you listen to my narration during this time, I do talk about a significant depopulation event. And here we are, guys. I mean, we have the pharmaceutical companies pushing an experimental VAX on the public for a virus which doesn't really kill anybody. And they're demanding that we get it. And they say that we have to get it. Like, come on, people. Use your brain. Put 2 and 2 together. This is what's happening. All right, well, I'm about ready to wrap this up. We're at about an hour and 42 minutes for this super stream. And for those of you wondering why I call it super stream sums to 142. And that's the number that my name, Derek Takuri, shares with Gematria, 142. Furthermore, superstream equals 741, which is the 38th triangular number. And in reduction, Gematria equals 38. So it's something I always stuck with. And before I went live, I was like, how funny would it be if I went an hour and 42 minutes today? I could point this out. And sure enough, here we are, an hour and 42 minutes. So that'll do it. Thanks to everybody for popping in. Peace, love, God bless. And as always, we'll talk to you next time. See ya!